this afternoon here on Sunday. It's been an amazing series of events that Advantage Support has been doing over the past 15 years. To begin this afternoon's conversation, we just become afternoon now, I'd like to take this opportunity to give you a brief insight into the kind of work that Advantage Support does. So Ravi, if you can just quickly share the slides, and I'd love to talk to you about what Advantage Support has been doing from the year 2007. One of the first events I remember conceptualizing along with Advantage Support was Young Voices. The idea was when Nitish Kumarji came in to represent the state as the Chief Minister for the first term, we did this event and spoke to children from across the state. And we picked up one voice from every district, and they shared their views to the Chief Minister. We've organized events like the Apna Patna Sundar Patna. This was almost 8 years ahead of the Swachh Bharat campaign. This was about trying to, sensitize people towards cleanliness and hygiene. This was, apart from that, a lot of traffic awareness programs were organized through the years. The idea was the chaotic traffics in our B towns and cities is something that we need to talk about, especially accidental deaths. So this was a campaign that was initiated to talk about that. One of the good things about Advantage Support is the media coverage it gets and the support it gets. A wonderful initiative was to campaign for a metro service in the region, especially in Patna. And it became a reality when the government adopted that. And, lots of campaigns like these have been to the credit of Advantage Support. Picking up issues which are relevant to the society, like voting, and encouraging people, using the media, using the government machinery, using the corporates, and bringing them all together for the benefit of society with the 3 C's of care, concern, as well as contribute. Moving on. Advantage Literature Festival is another wonderful initiative from Advantage Support. And over the past 4 years that this event has been organized, it's one of those unique initiatives. And I think more events like these are required, especially in places like Bihar, to promote literature. And, the world's oldest city, Patliputra, somehow has lost its sheen when it comes to literature and arts. And Advantage Literature Festival is doing its bit to try and revive and promote art and culture. Coming to the Advantage Care, when the COVID hit the second time, Advantage Care was started as a part of Advantage Support. And the idea of Advantage Care was to focus on 5 main areas. I'll be talking to you about it. Some of the trustees of Advantage include Dr. A. Hai, the legendary surgeon from Patna, Dr. Ranjana Kumari, Syed Saba Karim, Sanjeev Bose, Professor Haider, Chandramani Singh, the former CEO of Videocon. This particular campaign is sponsored by, thanks to all of them, that we've been able to do this entire series of events. We're doing 12 events under Advantage Dialogue, picking up different issues ranging from healthcare to education to women's empowerment. Reuben, redefining healthcare, the Reuben Memorial Hospital. It's also supported by the High Towers. The events and entertainment management industry, thank you so much for supporting this particular events, Advantage Care initiative of Dialogue. Advantage Real Estate is one of the sponsors for this. Goonj, an organization that's been doing a wonderful work in the space of women and child development. Advantage Real Estate, and finally, Mercy Mission. It's a fantastic organization based in Bangalore. They're collaborating. They've done some great work when it comes to COVID relief in Karnataka. And with collaboration of Advantage Care, we're trying to leverage on experiences and bring that kind of service into Bihar through Advantage Care. There are 5 major focus areas for Advantage Care. Free ambulance service in Patna. Free oxygen concentrators. We have adopted 5 villages in Bihar: Araria, Madhubani, Shivan, Gaya, and Patna, and supporting them in this COVID scenario. Advantage Care mobile app is being launched, and also adoption of children who lost their parents in this terrible pandemic. So those are the areas of work that Advantage is doing. And it will be great for anyone who's tuned in to contribute to our cause. and support advantage support. I think more hands coming in and joining together would enable probably one of the most backward parts of our country to be given the kind of care and concern that they need. I'm going to request Ravi if you can share the Advantage Care video, and then I'm going to start. Hi, Ishan. Good to see you.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah.
So we have a quick 1-minute video, and then we'll start. Thank you to all the sponsors and all the people and organizations that are supporting Advantage Care do some wonderful work that they've been doing over the years and now specifically in the pandemic situation. So today, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are here for the Advantage Care Dialogue. You know, the pandemic and the COVID-19 scenario when it first hit us last year and we went in a lockdown. And then again, a couple of months ago when the second wave arrived, a lot of things in our lives got disrupted. In fact, historians say that when we look back at history, we're going to talk about an era pre-COVID and an era post-COVID. And one of the areas that got highly impacted was sport, simply because of the nature of what it is. It's all about going out. And somehow there's that one word that I personally never liked, and that is social distancing. It's actually physical distancing. And I don't know who coined the word and how it became so popular. You know, the more you socially distant, especially we being social animals, it kind of puts us into a lot of different psychological, mental challenges as well, along with the physical challenges. So today we are here to talk about how COVID has impacted sport. And I'm your host, Sultan Ahmad, and I've been a trustee with the Advantage Care, Advantage Support for over 15 years, and trying to do my bit from Bangalore in the region of Bihar. That is where Advantage Support works. The purpose and the focus of this particular discussion today is basically advocacy. It is about sending out a message. It is about talking about issues. It is said that debate, dialogue, discussion are the basic building blocks of any democracy. And I think we need to talk about issues. And today we are here to talk about sport and how it has impacted performing athletes today and the future of the sport. And my job is relatively very easy because I have an illustrious panel of wonderful athletes and sports enthusiasts, if I may call it, supporters of sport. And when you have an illustrious panel, my job becomes very easy. Our first panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is uh, Janab Syed Saba Karim Sahab, who's a former Indian international wicketkeeper, batsman. He's been a national selector, and that's a pretty prestigious role. If anyone in India knows that. He's also donned the cap of the general manager of cricket operations for the BCCI. And among his several responsibilities during that role, it included giving strategic direction to domestic cricket. And I think one of the best things that's happened to Indian cricket in the past decade or so has been the emergence of new stars. And we have, in fact, one of them on our panel as well. So thank you, Saba Bhai, for doing such amazing work. And he's originally from Bihar, started his career here in Bihar, and also on the advisory board of Advantage Support. Saba Bhai, thank you so much for joining us in this panel this morning.
Such a pleasure, Sultan. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Our second panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is an amazing lady who originally from Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh, the former basketball captain of India, the women's national basketball team. Apart from playing for Uttar Pradesh, she moved to Delhi. And one thing that she's very famous for is because of the family that she comes from. She, along with three of her sisters, represented the country. They were famously called the Fantastic Four or the Singh sisters, as they were called. Akanksha has many applauds to her self in her wonderful illustrious career that started in 2003. She made her debut for the senior nationals and played while she was just an 11th grader. So I know a lot of young students are watching this on YouTube today. She was in 11th when she was playing the nationals, right? So please tell your parents that it's never too you don't have to wait to finish your studies. I mean, you can start your careers much earlier, and we'll talk to Akanksha about that. She's forever cemented her position in the Indian basketball history as one of the first ever top four players to achieve the A grade from the Basketball Federation of India, sponsored by the IMG Reliance. She's been awarded the best player in many state and national level tournaments. And presently, she spends a lot of her time. She's recently retired, and she spends a lot of time honing and nurturing young talent. She started her own basketball academy in Bangalore. And her passion for sport is vivid every day. And she's probably one of the most hardworking, athletes that I know. Akanksha, such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Akanksha. It's a pleasure to have you here. Our third panelist, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Irfan Pathan, needs no introduction at all, has played over 129 one-day internationals and 29 odd tests in his illustrious career. And one thing that I personally remember, and I'm never going to forget, if there's one cricketing memory that I have, Karachi, Pakistan, first over, hat-trick. And probably the only, I was looking up the net, probably the only cricketer to have achieved that particular feat. Apart from, donning the Indian colors, we've loved him with the many, wonderful innings and great spells that he's bowled, not just for India, but also for our favorite IPL teams like Kings 11, Punjab, Delhi Daredevils, Sunrisers, Chennai Super Kings. When I was looking at his career graph, there are two interesting things that stand out. One is his performance in Jhalak Dikhla. He literally shook a leg in 2015 in that television series. And I don't know how many of you are aware that he's making his debut on the silver screen with a Tamil film, which is going to be released. That's an interesting twist. Apart from this, all of this, he's presently the founder, and he is very passionate about nurturing the future of cricket with his academy called the Cricket Academy of the Pathans that he runs along with his brother Yusuf. Irfan Bhai, such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining Advantage Dialogue.
Thank you so much. Good to be here, and I was hoping that you will not take out the Jhalak Dikhla part, but it's good to be around such good people.
Right, and I promise you today I'm going to try and focus predominantly on the sport part of it and not get there. Maybe we'd love to see you on the silver screen and see you a lot more of you. And The next, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, is unlike the others here. All the other four of our five panelists have lived and braved the sport right from their school and college days. But while she was an athlete in school and college, but she pursued a very regular, if I may use that word, career, going on to do her commerce from Mount Carmel College in Bangalore, and then her master's from Symbiosis in Pune. And then, like all good people do after graduation, she joined the HSBC Bank. And in a very, very short career, she went on to become the vice president of the HSBC. This was when she decided to hang in her boots in the year 2012 because she had this passion for sport. And by that time, I assumed that she had crossed that age of, being active in sports. So she chose the next best thing is to, nurture young talent. Upcoming talent, and she joined the Go Sports Foundation, an organization that does some amazing work in developing the future stars of Indian athletes and Indian sport. She's presently the executive director. And while I was she's an extremely close friend of mine, but I had to do a little bit of research, and I loved this particular few sentences, the vision of Go Sports. And I'm going to read this as her introduction. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. The team at Go Sports Foundation believes firmly in this adage and also believes that athletes who are working to achieve their potential can inspire countless others to strive for excellence. Through our work and the support we extend, we also offer better health and overall well-being of our athletes, a level playing field for all genders, all genders, and an inclusive society overall by supporting able-bodied and differently able-bodied athletes. All of the above are in line with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Amazing work there, Deepika, that you do with Go Sports Foundation through the scholarships, mentorships, athlete development program, and something that for me personally is very heartwarming is the work they do with the para champions and the differently abled athletes and the stars of tomorrow. Deepti, fantastic work. Thank you for being here on the panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right. And completing the lineup, we've got the youngest, on our panel, a rising superstar from originally from Bihar, Patna, moving on to now making his debut with the Indian cricket team very recently, as recent as March 2021. So, he's the newest member to join the Indian cricket team. In December 2015, he was named as the captain of the Indian squad for the 2016 Under-19 Cricket World Cup. And a left-handed batsman and wicketkeeper. We've all come to love him now in IPL for his role he plays with the Mumbai Indians. Ishan Kishan, welcome to our panel. Hey, Ishan, I think your mic was off.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. It's great to be
here. Such
a
pleasure to have you here. So,
thank you so much.
So let me start off by requesting all our panelists to share their opening comments. I'd love to hear from you. It's a very different world, and we were having this discussion just before the panel went live. How has this impacted you, and what has been your experience the past year with the first and now the second wave? Let me start off with Syed Saba Karim, sir. Can I request you to share your opening remarks?
First up, thank you so much for this invite, Sultan, and to Advantage Care. It's very heartwarming to know the kind of work which Advantage Care has been doing for the past several years, and recently during this second wave of the pandemic. So my compliments and my deepest gratitude to the organization and all those people who have been involved in this in this kind of humanitarian work. The first time when the pandemic hit us, that was last year in March 2020. And I was part of the BCCI as General Manager Cricket Operations. I'll get down to the basic in terms of a cricket administrator, the kind of challenges we faced. So the initial shock and the surprise were very difficult to digest. And everybody felt that although it has hit us, it may go away in a fortnight or in a month's time, and it will not spread like wildfire the way it did. So initially, I think it became very difficult for us to readjust the dates for the domestic season because we felt that it was very important for BCCI to finish the entire domestic season. But as the number of cases started to go up, we realized that there was no other alternative but to stop domestic cricket. We had 3 or 4 tournaments still to go. We had the women entire cricketing schedule to be completed. We could not do that. Second, I think Ishan, maybe you can correct me if I digress or if I go wrong. And I think there were 1 or 2 men's tournament also which had to be shelved because of this. So once BCCI decided that we possibly cannot finish this entire domestic season, the next step is that how do we take care of the cricketers, or what do we do to help them? We had the men's team India, then you have the women team India, then you have the under 19 lot, then you have the India A team. There were different verticals to be taken care of. So I think at that point of time, it was very important for BCCI as well as all the state bodies to constantly engage with all the players who are part of the system, so as they should not feel that they've been left out and no one is there to take care of them. Then we also started hearing news of families and relatives getting affected of the cricketers, I'm saying, and their extended family. So all that was very difficult to understand and to cope with it. But we did manage to offer some kind of a helping hand by constantly engaging with them in conversations, having a WhatsApp group with all the team members, so that one is able to exercise that kind of that kind of gesture to all the cricketers, so that they would feel that they are part of the system. But as I said, and I think once things started to open up, once the first wave got over, and then gradually things opened up, we started to have these tours, some of the domestic matches were organized, and then suddenly the second wave hit us. And I think all this has impacted in a big way on the careers of so many young cricketers who are coming through the system. There have been several financial setbacks to so many of our professional cricketers, because many of them have been solely dependent on the kind of professional fees they receive while they receive while playing as professionals for the respective state associations and state bodies. So I think as we go along, one can talk about the ways to encounter this. But I feel that these are very difficult times for all the athletes. And I think it's very important that people who are associated in the system, who are part of the organization, they need to come forward and offer that helping hand to all the cricketers and all the athletes, so that they do not get unnecessarily depressed. And if there are any financial setbacks, we are there to help them out.
Right. That's so true, because the COVID tested us in so many different ways. And that was an insight from probably the most, what do you call, organized, structured, well-off financially, sporting body of the country. Akanksha, let me come to you. Your sport and your federation and the budgets and the kind of support that you got. Talk us through how this year has been, and what have you seen of basketball in specific and sport in general?
So I'll give you two viewpoints, from an athlete side and from a coach's side, right? So athlete side, I cannot imagine my life without sports. First of all, the whole my major chunk of my life, I have been an athlete, and I cannot imagine my life without sports. So suddenly, from an athlete's point, not having tournaments, not having any engagement in sports, it's just so confusing. It's just your sort of your existence. You start to question your existence. What do you do next? Because you don't have, you don't know when the pandemic is gonna end, and what's going to happen to the sporting career, especially for those who have had, who are on the edge. They are under 18 or 19, and they have last year to represent Indian team or prove themselves they're worth playing for the Indian team. So for them, and athletes who've been very active, staying at home, it's very for physically also, it's not very good for them, as well as mentally, because the confusing state, not able to go out of the house, all that has affected so much that then the coaches part comes in. Like all the parents, they started approaching me saying that, Akanksha, I don't know what to do, because kids are getting very restless at home. They are very, sometimes they behave very violently. They're not behaving properly. The structured life was taken away from them, right? So then I realized, like, there's so much missing, that, if we don't do something right now, it's going to be a problem for them to come back to the code as well. Like, we don't know if the pandemic is going to go on for like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. And then eventually that's proved, like, it's such a, like, we're not sure, like, when the life is going to come back to normal. So I started online classes with the kids. This is very limited things you can do in basketball online, right? So we started physical fitness classes, we started skill classes, where like kids can participate, like, individually what you can do to improve yourself. We started all that. So it sort of helped. I cannot imagine, I still can't believe that basketball can be taught online. It's such a physical sport. It's like, you need people to play with you. But skill part, what we do, individual training, we do this now online. But at the same time, it's just so hard on athletes. It's so hard on coaches, because as coaches, we also don't know, like, what to do next, because we plan our programs, macro, meso, and micro. Like, 1 year is what are we going to do with the kids? In 1 year, there's a tournament. So for that, we start segregating, like, this is the event we're going to play. This is the tournament we're going to play. This is the camp we're going to have. All that is so confusing. And like, if I see long term, all my athletes who are under 15, under 16, they've been really, really affected by that. And their future as well, because they were looking forward, and they're diehard sports fan, and they're like, athletes who want to make their career in sports. So it has been very confusing. It has been very hard on the athletes and the coaches both.
Right. Akanksha, you've touched upon some extremely, extremely relevant aspects of what this COVID has done to sport. And the most important one is just, this is a part of your life. And when somebody takes away the most integral part of your life, which is being on the field, on the court, I can just imagine, how difficult it is. It's like taking a fish out of water and expecting it to survive. And the kind of mental health challenges that it throws up is something that we have to discuss. We'll talk about it a little later, because it's not just school-going children; it's the athletes at different age. And more so with athletes, it becomes a lot more critical, because it's all about your age categories. It's all about your performance in this tournament, right? And we are also talking about competing at the world stage level, which is what we'll talk to Deepti about, the Olympic preparation and how that gets impacted. So thank you for sharing that, insights, Akanksha. Let me come to Irfan bhai. Did you plan that there was a COVID happening and you retired from all forms of cricket in last year? And how's it been for you the past year?
Look, in terms of retiring, when people say if a cricketer or sportsman retires, he will have free time. That's a lie. He actually, or she actually becomes much more busier, as Saba will understand as well, that I have much more work than what I used to do, especially in the later stage of my career. So I wanted to retire for 2-3 years now, but I couldn't take the decision. And eventually, when the time came just before the COVID, it happened to be the timing that I decided to retire from all form of cricket. But look, when it comes to the pandemic, we all talk about, especially for the sportsmen or sportswomen, I understand that every human, evolves very, very nicely when the problem arrives. So what we started doing, as all the human, the smart people got together and started making a bubble to actually get the sports going. The only issue with the bio bubble, when the bio bubble happened in IPL, bio bubble happened, the commentary team as well. I remember when I came to this hotel last year, when the IPL was supposed to happen in the bubble, I had to have 2 weeks of quarantine. And then after 2 weeks of quarantine, I had to be there in the bubble without meeting my family, without meeting my friends, be there just working, coming back to the hotel. I was doing that for 2.5 months. And it takes the toll of everyone. So bio bubble started working for sportsmen in a way, but it had a big impact on mental side of the game as well, because there is a huge impact, especially this pandemic has given. I always believe that this pandemic is good for the guys who are privileged, good for the people who are privileged, because they can spend time with their family. But for the people who are less privileged, they have to worry about day-to-day life to survive. It's very difficult for them. And, it has been similar case with some of the guys, especially playing under 16, under 19, and under 23, especially those age group, because if they are losing that 1 year, which a lot of players have lost, they're losing out of the career, especially with the under 19 guys. Suppose if he's a good talented player, he has a last year of under 19, he's gonna be missing out that last year. So my suggestion to the BCCI, which I've already given to them, what can be done for those guys, and especially for the 23 guys, they need to have some sort of alternative so they don't lose out that particular 1 year, which is very, very crucial, which is a making or breaking their career as well. So we have gone through so many ups and downs, but we started to evolve as well in terms of bio bubble. We started to make sure that we start training at home, even though we have lockdowns as well. I remember I mentor quite a few guys. One of them is Deepika Huda, and other one is Abdul Samad for Jammu Kashmir Cricket. When I played as a mentor come player, I know that Abdul Samad he got picked, but he needed to train to play his first IPL. How he's going to train when everything is locked down? So he started practicing on terrace with his brother, and we started preparing some sort of drills which can actually replicate what he can do, especially on the field. Similar with Deepak Huda when he was in Baroda. I invited it at my home and started doing some practice. At least I had some space in my home, so where I can some sort of small nets, pug nets, what we call it, and we just try to hit the balls in that net, and we practice that way. So all I'm trying to say right now, yes, there is a pandemic, but there is always a way for human to evolve and be smart about it, what we can do going forward.
Fantastic. Where there's a will, there's a way, and I think innovation has been right up there when it comes to the way all of you as wonderful mentors have managed to support young talent, and similar to what a lot of schools and educational institutions have done across the country to come and innovate to keep the learning going. This was a very interesting point that I picked up from your comment, Irfan, was that while this lockdown might seem very good for people like us living in wonderful houses, the less privileged have it very difficult. And we've heard some horror stories about how people had to leave their one-room house to quarantine and actually live outside. Some of them have actually lived on trees. So that's a different world. And this becomes relevant to your point, because a lot of young athletes that are coming out of the country today are the ones who are coming from the heartland. Gone are the 80s and the 90s, where it was the Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore that represented the country. And let me talk to Deepti now, who's actually in the thick of this action, and through their work at Go Sports Foundation is working with a lot of these upcoming athletes. So Deepti, talk us through the challenges and how have you innovated?
First of all, it's wonderful to be here and listen to all of you. It's so inspiring to hear each of them speak about their journeys and what this year has meant for them. Today, we're actually 40 days to the Olympics. And, for anyone who's been tracking Olympic and Paralympic sport, it's a 4-year cycle. You train for 4 years or 8 years or 12 years and play for that 1 minute or 5 minutes of your event, depending on if it's an athletics or whatever it is. So last year, this time, we were all geared up for the Olympics. And, there was a lot of confusion because there was no clarity on whether the Olympics is going to happen or not happen. Even now, there's a lot of, protests locally in Japan in terms of wanting to have the Olympics or not. But I think it's been a really, really challenging period for athletes. But I think athletes, like, Akanksha said, while they like their routine and they want everything to happen on time and they want to know where they are exactly over the next 1 week, they'll know at what time they're doing what activity. I think that has really gone all over the place because it's all about periodization when you're preparing for the highest level of competition. And we at Go Sports, what we really attempted to do at this point of time, we currently support about 120 athletes. We tried to create athlete education workshops, a lot of sports psychologists coming and talking to them, mentoring them, because I think the biggest impact was on the mental health and mental well-being of athletes. That's where they really kind of, a lot of them felt like, if sport doesn't resume, what's going to happen to my life? What am I going to do later? So all aspects of really building skills, thinking of other options, thinking of education in a slightly broader way is something that we did. One of our initiatives that we created was Play for India last year. It was an initiative that we created primarily because sport came to a standstill, and all sports people who work in sport, which is your your coaches, your groundsmen, your caddies, the people who take care of your stadiums. A lot of them are daily wage workers. So we created this campaign, and we got some of the best athletes in the country to actually come up, run their own campaign. So you had Satyan run a campaign for table tennis along with Neha and Sharat. We had Viren and OGQ who came across and did a campaign for hockey beneficiaries. We had Aparna Popat do something with badminton, and through the entire period we actually supported almost close to 600 beneficiaries of sport, and also raised some money where athletes learned a new skill of fundraising directly as well. So a constant attempt was, how can we really get them to use this period wisely, but also really try and manage their training. I think especially for Olympic and Paralympic bound athletes, the challenge is really, some of them are at the peak of their careers. They may not get a next chance. The next Olympics is 3 years away in Paris. So it's very, very difficult to really get them to continue to stay focused. So I think our team, we have a great bunch of mentors, and Rahul Dravid, Pulela Gopichand, all of them on our mentorship, on our advisory board. We have John Gloucester, who was also with the cricket team for very long. He is our head of sports science, and part of creating some of the bubbles for the IPL team, is guiding us on a lot of information on how to manage this better. And what's been fantastic is also the Honorable Minister Kiran Rijiju, the SAI, Sports Authority of India, everybody working together and collaborating on athlete sensitization, athlete education. And I think these are things which did not happen a lot in the past, but I think now everybody as key stakeholders are coming together and working together. So we're gearing up full swing for the Olympics. We're having already 100 athletes who've qualified from India, to go to the Olympics, some of them training all across the world and going to be reaching directly, but really creating that ecosystem around them to be for their mental well-being, for their physical well-being. And, like Irfan mentioned about innovation, right? As human beings, we have to keep trying to survive whatever is thrown at us. So I think sport has always taught us that. That is the beauty and the lessons of sport. So I think it's been a challenging time, but it's also been it's created so much of hope, and I really hope this is behind us and we all learn to live in the new normal.
Fantastic. It was very heartening to hear from you that there was a lot of collaboration, whether it's from the ministry, whether it's from the Sports Authority of India, as well as from corporates and different sports bodies like cricketing, they're all coming together to support, and wishing you good luck for the wonderful work that you're doing. There's another very interesting point that she made was, while a lot of athletes have to focus on their own performances, I think one of the skills they will have to learn, if you're not a cricketer and you're not in the top rung cricketer, is to fundraise. And I'm glad that let's accept that that's a challenge that we live with as a country, because most sport are not as well paying, as a couple of them are. Let's go to Ishan. Ishan, while the others in our panel have, a kind of a ringside view, you are still in the thick of the action and you're like starting your race, right? How has it been for you to break into the Indian cricket team during the pandemic? I would say March is when the pandemic has just ended, and then when you join the cricket team, you get into a pandemic. Talk us through, first of all, congratulations. I have to mention that, I can only imagine it's like a billion young Ishan's dreams to be a part of, the team that you are in now. And talk us through what's been your personal experience in this.
Sir, I think, first of all, when this lockdown was announced initially in March 2020, the worst thing happened to me was my diet plan. I was just eating whatever I want to eat. And I think for any sportsman, it's really important to take care of that, because end of the day, we have to go there. We need to
I hope Virat Kohli is not listening.
Exactly. That's the mark he has set for everyone now, that we need to. There's a fitness test going on these days, like we have to complete, otherwise we won't get in the team. So it's very important to stay fit, not only for the fitness test, but also if we want to represent our country, we need to be in our best shape there. So I know it was very difficult. We were not getting any kind of practice. I was lucky enough to have my own pitch at my place. But I think for everyone else also, I think there's always an option open. If you want to work towards your goal, there's always an option open. It's up to the particular guy how much interest he's showing or he's not showing. So I think, and like I said, diet plan is very must, because I was the one after 1 month. I just contacted when the dates came in of IPL. I contacted my dietitian and I said, just please make me eat something nice, because now I'm just gaining weights. All I'm doing is gaining weights, and I won't look good when I go there out and play. So this was the few things that I was just going to take care of, like my diet, my fitness. But the good thing in the pandemic, if you think, I think most of the sportsmen who were getting enough time, they must have started doing few good works. You know how to take care of your own place. You start doing yoga. So I was doing these things on a very regular basis, and I think my parents were very proud about this more than me going and playing for IPL or India team.
Okay, so that's wonderful, and it's very endearing to hear that, because what you spoke about is the real life challenges that athletes go through, and most of us as spectators and audience have no clue. Rohan Gopinath has been a friend of mine for over 2 decades. The only thing that I know is that guy gets up at 4, 5 in the morning every day for 2 decades. I mean, and the kind of focus they need to have and give up, I think, on their food and their diet. Ishan, my heart goes out to you, but then it's completely worth that, giving up. All the best for you in your career, Ishan, as you go forward.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
And let me go to, Akanksha and to Sababhai and ask you this question. The pandemic has impacted the financial support, the financial dependence of athletes, right? Akanksha, I'll ask you to talk about how the basketballers and similar sports are looking at it and facing it. And Sababhai, because you've been in the helm of cricket in India, so if you can talk us through how are the cricketers doing it, so that we get two very broad perspectives. So Akanksha, do you want to go?
Yeah, so very valid point, because games like basketball and other sports are not at par with cricket, how, in terms of financial help and financially sound this board is. But then keeping that in mind, I mean, we shouldn't be comparing. We should be self-sufficient. We should be we should think about how we can, make most of this, whatever situation it is, how to, raise money, funding, all that is one side. So federation has limitations, of course, that how much money they can spend in terms of training, sending out tournaments, players to the tournaments, all that. So we decided as like, me and my husband, he's also basketball player, national level basketball player, and this has been our dream, this opening an academy and producing a lot of international athletes. So we decided, instead of depending on federation, what we can do from our side to help the sport, because it's just not a sport we have played, it is our love. Both of us say like this is our first love. So we decided, like, reaching out to the companies, and we will start our own sponsorship programs where we can pick all the athletes, like different athletes, those who are doing really well and they don't have enough support. Eventually what happens, the career ends. So how can we bring them into our academy and start supporting them and create a lot of athletes, international athletes, who can bring laurels to the country. But for that also, the step starts when you have sort of results in your hand. Like, you can show it to different companies and you can show it to different people to use their CSR fund to fund those athletes. So what we decided, we will fund those athletes initially from our pocket. Like, we picked up a few government hospitals, some other thing came, government schools, where we started picking up talent. We started training them. We started sending our coaches to the government schools, running few programs. There were few programs I personally mentored. So that started, giving us results, thinking that this is something where we can find talent, because these are the kids you see that they don't have much to see, like, look forward to. So one thing they find, which is entertaining, they find passion in that. So that's how we sort of started, kind of getting talent from them. But again, this is our personal effort. And, if I talk about that, personally putting our own money and, bringing out talent, that has taken a hit. Like, of course, we have to sort of, before we, give out, that support, we need to make money as well. So the program which I had thought, whatever pay and play program we are running, we can make money out of that and, support the government school kids. So seeing that small scale, how it has been hit, I see it as in terms of sponsoring the state teams, national teams, all that has taken a hit. Of course, there's a lot we need to figure out how we can take it forward and support athletes, because the financial part has been taken a lot of hit, and athletes have already started thinking about how do we go about it. If we can't make career in sports, then we have to do something to support our family. So I don't know answer to that, of course, but we are trying our best to help. And as Deepika very rightly said, how important it is for other sports to get sponsorship. It's just it's just heart-wrenching that, we need to have that kind of a support. We do need to have that kind of a culture in our society, in our country, that people see this as, you are creating heroes for the societies,
Absolutely right. And I think once we come out of this second wave, which hopefully is subsiding now, there's a whole lot of us who've woken up to realize that we are required by the society. So today and yesterday, we were supporting the COVID efforts from a healthcare point of view. I think going forward, very clearly, one of the areas that corporates and individuals can support is sport. And I completely hear you there, Akanksha. Saba bhai, what are your thoughts on how the financial impact has happened and how that can be looked at?
See, Sultan, when this pandemic hit us last year, and I could understand what went into the minds of most of the first class and top rung cricketers. First is, where is your career heading? And second is, what about your finances? So career in the sense, as Irfan rightly pointed out, if you're an under-19 cricketer and you are slated to play the World Cup does not take place, under-19 World Cup talking about, and you cross that age group, then what happens to your career then? Because in India, under-19 cricket is very important. That's the platform which actually kickstarts your international career. And Ishan is a great example in front of us. And most of us who have donned the national colors, all of us have gone through the junior cricket structure through BCCI in India. So I think, in terms of career aspirations, there's nothing much which BCCI or the state bodies could do. However, there is some talk about giving some kind of extension, having talks with ICC whether they can increase the age limit or not. That is something which is still on the table. But the biggest impact was on a cricketer's finance. Most of you may not be aware that there are very few cricketers, maybe the top-rung first-class cricketers, who are employed with either private or public sector. The others depend on whatever resources they get from BCCI while playing for the state or while playing for the nation. And last year, BCCI could organize only 2 men's tournaments. One was the white ball cricket one-day tournament, and another was the T20. And for women, we could organize only one one-day tournament. So from playing maybe about 25 to 30 multiple format matches for a cricketer in India, it came down to maybe about 7 to 8 matches. So you can understand that the difference in terms of monetary compensation you receive from BCCI. So I think there was a discussion about how do we compensate all the first class, the under-19 cricketers, the under-16 cricketers who would in a season make about X amount of money. So there is some discussion going on in BCCI. I'm sure Saurav, being a former cricketer, he understands the state of the cricketers now, and I'm sure he's having this discussion with all the office bearers. Somehow find some kind of a system wherein all those players who have been affected by this COVID, who have not been able to play X number of matches, how do we compensate them? And I think one thing that has emerged is that the time has come now for a BCCI through the state bodies to offer a central contract to all the state level cricketers. And I'm not talking only about first class cricketers, but right down down the system, go down to the under 16s, under 19s, under 23, as Irfan pointed out, because all these age group tournaments are based on category and your age. Suppose you miss out 1 or 2 years of that cricket, then where do you go? What happens to you? So I think it is equally important now for state bodies and BCCI to get together and work out a structure wherein you're able to, number one, take care of the financial compensation, and second, think of a system wherein all these age group cricketers are allowed, some 1 or 2 year space, so that they can still play that underage that age group tournaments. So I think that's the kind of talk that has been going on. But I think that's the way to take it forward, because everybody has been hit, and I think it's very important that all the like-minded organizations and individuals get together to resolve this.
Well said.
So when an athlete or when a sports person performs, plays, that's when he gets paid. Literally, that's how things work out. And when there's a lockdown, there needs to be a system that needs to be created, both from a BCCI level or from a Sports Authority of India or from the government level. Apart from the financial, the biggest thing that I'm hearing, and I can completely relate to it because I work in the education space with children, is the mental well-being. So, Irfan bhai, you've been mentoring a lot of young talent, and Deepti, you've been working with a lot of future stars and para stars as well. So, can you talk to us about how and what can be done today in the short term, and in the long term? What is the kind of structures and support systems for mental well-being, and that can be provided for our athletes? Irfan bhai, let's go with you.
Sultan, first of all, this mentoring needs to be there regularly now. When I was growing up, when I was playing cricket, yes, I had mentors who was trying to help me out, but there was no structure mentoring. So I think that needs to be the case from now on, because there are, a lot of people, Saba bhai said as well, Deepti said, a lot of Akanksha, everyone just made the point there where a lot of people are losing financially as well as their career as well. And I always believe that, the age change has to be there, but that's a different topic altogether. But going forward, the mentoring part where every athlete needs to have at least one mentor in the bag where he can come out and help at any point of time, be that it's financially, be that it's mentally, and more than financially, the mental part will be very, very crucial. Why I said that? Look, I'm a retired player. I'm not playing right now, but I am in the bubble quite a lot. Right now, we be doing commentary for the game of 18th. There is a final game, WTC final game, which is on 18th. But right now, I'm in the quarantine since 11th. So there is a 7 day of quarantine, but only 5 days of work. So what am I going to do in those 7 days when I'm going to be all by myself? If I am just not doing anything, if I'm not talking to anyone, as we all say in Hindi, khali dimag shaitan ka ghar hota hai. So when you keep yourself busy, be there whatever constructive work you do, be there reading, be there you do some courses, or you speak to your mentor, which he can help out to plan going forward what needs to be done. So I think that's the utmost important going forward in the sport, especially in cricket as well, that a mentor has to be there for all the cricketer. And if that happens, things will become much more easier and clear going forward for any athlete.
Right, and I think that's a wonderful point, because the corporate world seems to have internationally understood the importance of mentoring and coaching for the corporate, especially the leadership teams and the top performers. And I think in sport, it's so critical. So if you are an ex-athlete or an ex-sports person, find a young kid who needs mentoring. And if you are a kid, go and look for a senior. Yes, Irfan.
Yes, Sultan. So yes, it's a responsibility of a senior guy to actually put the hands out. Hey, if you need any help, please come out and just ask for it. But it is important for athletes as well not to be shy about it. If you need help, just speak out. Just speak up. Raise your hand. Speak up, and just any senior guy, for that matter, we are all in that category, probably 3 or 4 guys. If someone comes to us for help, we will be ready to help in terms of any athlete, because if he is talented, we don't want them to be in the situation where someone is losing their career because of maybe financial issue or something going on in their head. So don't be shy. If you're an athlete, put your hands up, ask for help.
I can also add here, Sultan, I may be digressing, but I think Deepti, you can also touch on this subject, is that, in our days, we always felt that as premier athletes, we are because so ably supported by our family, by our relatives, by our friends, one would never feel the urge or the need to reach out to a mentor. Because we always had our parents, or coaches to help you or assist you, to come out of any problems or travail, so to speak, one goes through in one's career. But I think things have changed now. And I think the younger generation in India itself is becoming as fragile as the so-called Western nation. Western nation, even during our days, those athletes were extremely fragile. We have heard of Irfan, if you recall, there's so many of these foreign cricketers who would come to India and then suddenly they would go back. Marcus Trescothick comes to my mind.
Yes.
So many of these foreign cricketers who underwent, mental rehab, they went through depression, and they had to reach out to people to help them out. But I think I can see that happening now in India because this new generation or the young generation in India, they go through such kind of issues now. So I think as Irfan said, it's very important for an individual, one, to understand that there are some issues which needs to be handled by an expert. Second is maybe the parents or the environment needs to tell them, okay, hey, listen, this is the time for you to reach out to a mentor or a sports psychologist to help you come out from this kind of a state. And I think that's the way to really take this forward. That's where I think your foundation has come in very handy, isn't it?
Yes, Deepti.
Yeah, I think just 2 points over here. One on the financial part of it, and since you spoke about CSR, and I'm really using this platform to talk about it, that India is actually the first country in the world to mandate CSR, right? And that's something we should be very proud of. And it has something called as training towards Olympic, Paralympic, rural, and nationally recognized sports. So a lot of corporates don't even look at sport as one of the areas of supporting, because they're only thinking about a medal. But if we don't invest in the actual programs in the grassroots and actually helping at them elevate in a structured manner, we're not going to see champions of the future. The fact that we see so many cricketers is because there's an entire program and pathway put in place. And if we have to see that happening, we need a lot of support, and this is support from corporate. So I just wanted to just put that out there, that different organizations like us are, we are the platform to take those funds and put it into these athlete development programs. And it's not just from their sporting standpoint, it is to make them a professional athlete and a good human being at the end of the day, right? To become a role model, to give back, to put your hand up and say, I want to be the mentor, I want to give back to the sport that has given me so much. So I think all of that requires a support team, it requires an entourage, and that's where an organization like us comes in to really provide that support. We're doing it currently only for Olympic and Paralympic sport, but yes, we have in the past also for BCCI done a program for the under-19 team, the India A team, as well as the women's cricket team. We've done workshops, athlete education workshops, and we've seen the relevance of it, because a lot of times the life of an athlete it's a very lonely journey. And sometimes if you're not performing, you just feel like you have nowhere to go and your world is going to, just come to an end. So I think to constantly ensure that there are opportunities, and there are two lives an athlete lives, one while they're playing and one beyond their sport. So how do you make sure that you take care of both these aspects and develop enough skill sets to manage your post-career time, also well? I mean, today there's commentary, there's giving back in ways, there's mentoring, there's so many opportunities there's entrepreneurship as well. So I think it's about educating the athlete, creating that awareness, and mental well-being. I think just culturally, I have to touch this upon, it's not an athlete Indian eco-sport issue. I think it's general public in India. We're very happy to say when we hurt our physical self and go to the doctor. But if you're feeling low, if you're feeling bad, you don't even want to talk about meeting a counselor or a psychologist, because you feel it's there's so much of shame attached to it socially. So I think lot of things happening, but I'm glad we are talking openly about mental health. There's a lot of different organizations who are supporting this, and as a team of stakeholders in Indian sport, I think it's everybody's responsibility, not just the athlete, but the parents, the coaches, the administrators, everybody who's around the athlete, to be also educated on all these aspects. Because for an athlete, it's literally what my coach says is everything that I'll follow, at least in most of the other sports, right? So how do we ensure that coach education also is happening and awareness is also happening? So I think it's a combination of things, but yes, funding is the number one aspect for most sports, but it's nice to see a lot of our corporates who've come in and supported this. And I have to make this point because in a pandemic year when a lot of money has actually gone into other areas, rightly so, because of the pandemic situation, very, very fortunate to all our partners who've continued to invest in sport because they believe in the long-term journey. They believe in putting India on a world map. And that is why they've continued to stay put in the programs that they're running with us. So thank you.
Great. Deepti, I'm picking up that point saying that, of course, having seen the success of Go Sports, there are a lot of organizations and a lot of corporate that have come forward in supporting sport. But the challenge is that we need a lot more. And that's what, Akanksha was mentioning. And we know that COVID has had a challenge with access to facilities for a sports person to practice, to be at the top of the game. But the two big challenges that have emerged through this conversation have been one, the financial challenge, and then the other one is the mental well-being challenge. And I think these are very clear areas for all of us to focus on and work towards. Ishan, I'm going to come to you with a question that's come, and it was also on top of my priority. You were lucky enough to not just be there and be a part of the under-19 team, but you performed really well, right? You were the captain of that team, and then you went on to now be a part of the national cricket side. What would be your advice to those 16, 17, 18-year-olds who lost out that 1 year? How would you, what is your, bits of, experience, I would say, because you've come out through that just recently. What would be your advice for the young cricketers, not just cricketers, for the other athletes or the Paralympians and the Olympians going to Olympics? What would be your insight for them?
See, I think 1 year is too much for any sportsman because in 1 year you get better a lot. You learn so many things, so many new things. If it's cricket, you learn 2-3 shots. In other sports, you get to know about your own game also. And I think for any sportsman of young age, I think it's really important not to think about the result, what's going to happen in future, because that was something I experienced that was very difficult when I imagined myself in being in such a situation, and when I was not able to perform and I can't reach my goal, I was very upset, and that was something I was adding pressure on myself, and then I was not able to perform well because, like, if you see, if I get out in 2-3 matches quickly, then later on, what I'm thinking is to just survive there and play little selfish game. Sometimes that happens with any cricketer who wants to be there for the next match also. But so I learned that it's very important for anyone to stay in that neutral zone. You just need to go there and express yourself. You don't have to worry about the results. You just have to keep doing your homework. You have to work on your process, and when the time comes, you just need to go there and give your best shot. If it works, it's fair enough. If not, you just need to forget that previous match and you need to go ahead with that. That's the same thing with this COVID situation. What's done is done. Now everyone should think that what we can make out of this COVID time. There are so many things we can do. We can start doing our yoga. We can start doing our extra gym work. We can. I mean, you get me. You get me. We can do so many things, and we can get better every day. So for me, I think it's very important to just keep growing day by day. If the day is not good, you always have your parents by your side. You need to talk to them whenever you're feeling low. Like everyone is talking about the mentorship. I think the biggest mentors, I think, is our parents. If we talk to them, we will get good suggestions of what we need to do. So it's just that you need to keep working. Just keep asking yourself that am I going in the right direction or not? And I think the things will come for you.
Sultan, I'll add something here. Different athletes get their peak at different age groups. So sometimes athletes, I was the first one to play under 16. When I was playing under 16, I was playing for senior women's basketball team. So I was playing better than my age group, and much better. So many players I was playing so many better than so many players who were in the senior Indian team. But say I have few athletes who are playing under 19 right now, and last 2 years they've had no exposure, no tournaments. But I know going forward, their peak hasn't come yet. Of course, to get the peak, you need to have continuous matches, continuous tournament, continuous mentoring. But at the same time, if they keep at it, I'm sure they were going to make it to the senior Indian team without even playing under 18 or under 19, for the country. So peak coaches have to realize when the peak comes of the athletes, and accordingly they have to prepare the athletes. At the same time, mentally you have to prepare them, because even athletes see that if they've not been part of under 19 Indian team, probably it's not probably they will not be able to make it to the senior team. So, but it's a myth, because you see a lot of athletes are super talented who make it to the senior Indian team much later than depending upon getting right opportunities, chances, and right time they peak. So that also adds to it. They don't get discouraged. You just keep at it, and you will make it. You're on mute, Sultan.
Yeah, so don't get discouraged. You always have an opportunity. And what Ishan said was wonderful. And I love that point of, believe in your family. Your family, even Irfan at the different points it mentioned, your family is someone that really is there for you. So, and more importantly, it's like cricket. The next time you go out there to start batting on the pitch, you start from zero. So 2020 is moved on. So don't fret too much about it. It's a new year ahead. With this, we come, this 1 hour has just flown. I was planning a lot more questions, but I think we've covered the most important ones. I'm going to end by throwing up one common question to all our panelists over here. And I'd love to ask them all a question, which is, what is the one takeaway or a lesson that this pandemic has taught them? What's a life lesson that this COVID pandemic has taught you? And the second part of the question is, if you were to give any advice or, to the government and to the authorities, what would that be? In this case, it could be to the corporate, to the world outside. What would be your message as, from the topic that we've discussed? So what's your life lesson and what's your message out there? So let me start, Samabai, we'll start with you. Go with that.
Okay. I'll try and make it very brief, Sultan, because whatever one has seen over the past year and a half, the way things have panned out, I think each of us, we have gone through, different facets of our life, and has lost on some close family members or relatives or friends or extended family. And I think my biggest life lesson is to live by the day and enjoy the present. In fact, not only the present, enjoy the moment. And I think one feels always privileged that one is alive and one is breathing and one is trying to grow as much as possible. One should spend time and energy in trying to help others who are in need during these tough times. That's my life lesson. Number two is, I think, I don't know, I mean, somehow we need to come up with a solution where we mandate the public and the private sector organizations to have some percentage of your CSR only for sports. And I think when we talk about turning our nation into a sporting nation, the only way we can do it is by getting this kind of a structure in place through central government guidelines or state government guidelines. There has to be some kind of a mandatory structure in place, so that and all these private and public sector organizations, they set aside X amount of X percentage of your CSR only for promotion and well-being of sports and for athletes.
Wonderful. Live by the moment. And can we set aside a certain percentage specific for sport from CSR? Deepti?
Okay. I think one of the biggest lessons is you realize during this entire 1 year, for me personally, is, while you might talk about loving yourself and being on your own, you realize that the greatest strength is working with your community and coming together. And I think that is what the pandemic has shown, that at different points, different people have reached out to random people who you've never spoken to at the time of help. And I think the last few months has been really heartening to see how that has happened, and just helping out in the time of need. At the end of the day, health is wealth. So take care of your health first, whether it's mental well-being, physical well-being, emotional well-being. I think that has been a big learning for me. Advice, thank you, Saba, for mentioning that point on advice to corporates. But I think for athletes, I would just say for the entire sporting community that there is a lot of people who want to support, who want to contribute. It's just about reaching out and asking for help, and don't feel shy to ask for help. There are enough and more people who want to really see you grow and shine.
Cherish your help and reach out for the support that you need. Thanks, Irfan bhai. Your thoughts?
Just one thing which I've been, what I learned more. I was before grateful also, but now I think during this pandemic, I learned a lot that one have to be very, very grateful for what he or she has. If you are grateful, that you will see things in a better light, and you will not be depressed in a way, because when we're not thinking about how grateful we are for whatever little things what we have, we start thinking about negative points. So I think that's one thing I learned even better. The other thing is, it's not for authority. I think it's for the people of our country, because I see even now, I'll just give you a small example. I was taking my wife to a hospital we wanted to go to a dentist. There was one guy who was sitting in the rickshaw, not wearing a mask. He was spitting. He spit right in front of me, and when I looked at him, and he said, "Sorry," and I was like, "What's the point of you being sorry? You cannot spit like that." So one thing which I want from our own people, to actually educate our own people in terms of in society about small little things, be there it's cleanliness, be there it's how to behave with certain people, elderly, youngsters. And I think it doesn't only come with education. I myself only study till 10th standard, but my education has been through sports, and I've learned a lot of things. I learned to respect drivers because I travel abroad, because I see how people abroad respect the drivers. But at the same time, I actually involved that in my life, and I started to implement that as well. So I think it's come to you with society, not just with education. So I think for people, we need to get better in those aspects.
Fantastic. Being grateful. And then as a society, we need to learn to behave. I think, Irfan bhai, what you mentioned, you only done grade 10. You don't necessarily have the qualification, but you have an education. We learn every day. And with the kind of exposure that you've had of different countries, of different scenarios, of different situations, if ever there is one place that we learn life skills best, it's a sports field. So, athletes generally are much better human beings than, most people out there. And that's the meaning that, can we all learn to behave more in a more hygienic manner and in a more cordial manner, so that we live in a better world. Thank you for that. Akanksha, before I go to Ishan for the last comment.
As you said, athletes are generally a better human being. That's a personal experience, right? Every day we play matches, we win, we lose, we learn every day, and that we don't take it as strongly as our heart, because we have some positive thing to look forward to, like, chalo next match mein kar lenge, acha kar lenge, yeah, next series mein acha kar lenge, like that. So that positive thinking is always there. Like, koi bhi setback hota hai, it's not a big deal, because we have next chances. So for normal people, I think this whole pandemic has taught us, like, hold on to one positive thought, one positive relationship, one positive person who's been good to you, and then keep, try and fight back. So all the negativities will go away. I mean, of course, it's a hard time, but that's how the pandemic has taught us, like, just hold on to one positive thing and you'll get there.
Fantastic. And any recommendation for the people out there, the government or agencies from your end?
Government agencies and we have to learn to do better. I'll talk about sports, because you need to support more athletes. You need to support all the tournaments happening. If we can somehow, like how Deepti is doing a good job with Go Sports, if we can find out, like, companies who are ready to support sports, and find out right organization who are trying to raise or bring out heroes for the society, just support them, and this country will be a great sporting country.
Right. Thanks. Hold on to that one thing and be positive about that, and these little things matter, and support sport. And that's the message from Akanksha. Finally, let me come to you, Ishan. What's the one thing that you've learned in this pandemic, and what's your advice to youngsters or even to the government?
No, I totally see my point. I totally agree with what Irfan bhai said, that we need to be grateful for every little things we have. And I am really grateful to that, because when you don't get something like this, I know it's not easy for any youngster or any particular person to be happy at the same point of time. But whatever you have your family right beside you. So you just need to be very grateful to them. And now it's high time, I think we need to take care of our health, and we have to take care of our family also, for the purpose of health, because we need to make them walk for long time now these days, because all our parents, when they were sitting, they were eating whatever they like, and now we know that the person who is not that fit enough, they might struggle little bit in this situation. So it's high time we take care of our parents and other people around us, and we need to be positive at all point of time, because that positive mind, you can help others also to be positive at the same time. So it's really important to be positive whenever you're in front of the ones who are struggling.
Yeah, that is amazing, Ishan, how often you brought out, the support from your family. And I think it's so important. And I would love to thank Ishan's family and everyone's family, Akanksha's and Irfan's and Saba Bhai's and every family who actually contribute a lot more to sport than actually the sports person themselves in a lot of different ways. So thank you to all the families for giving us these wonderful stars. And thank you, Saba Bhai, Irfan, Deepti, Akanksha, and Ishan for joining me in this panel. Advantage Care Dialogue was to bring out an issue. And clearly, today, in this pandemic time, if there's one area that we need to focus on is health and well-being. And one of the best ways of doing it is by ourselves being active physically, being involved in a sport. And, if you can't be involved professionally in a sport, support a sport. And I think that the clear message that comes out for all athletes that are here is please do take care, raise your hands, talk about your challenges, talk about your issues to your family, look for a mentor, seek financial support if you don't have it. I think these are some very strong messages coming out, and I'd like to wish Ishan all the very best for a wonderful career that you have ahead of you. Irfan Bhai, Saba Bhai, and Akanksha, continue doing the wonderful work that you're doing, and all the best to you. And to Deepti, good luck for your teams for the Olympics. There are 8 para and another 8, 16 of them.
8 Olympians and 13 Paralympians from the foundation.
13 Paralympians. Wow. All
Good
the
luck,
best
good
to
luck.
you.
Good luck.
Good luck to you. We're looking forward
Good
to
luck to you, ma'am.
Thank
And
you so
all the very best on behalf of Advantage Support. This is Sultan Ahmad signing off. And this conversation should continue. It's meant to be starting off involvement with sport, mental health, well-being, and physical health. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sultan.